Kansas announcing its conference schedule for this upcoming season. And obviously, Kevin, prior to about 2 years ago, the announcement of the conference schedule was a giant nothing burger because it was, hey, you're going to play every other team in the conference 2 times each, home and home. Oh, great. Thanks. All right. That's an easy conference release. Sure. No problem. But with the expansion, there is a little bit of intrigue now involved in it because of the fact that you don't play every team twice. You are going to get some teams only at home. You're going to have to go play at some teams only and not get them to come down Fieldhouse. And you will get some teams that you play twice. So before I get into the conference schedule, quickly, we kind of broke it down on our show last week, but just very quickly, I went through the non-conference schedule that was already out. So KU's going to play 2 exhibition games. They're going to play against Louisville at the KFC Yum Center. Then they're going to play Fort Hays in their exhibition. They get Green Bay. They go at North Carolina, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, Princeton. They'll play Duke in the Champions Classic. They've got the Players Era and NIL tournament in Las Vegas with a lot of big name schools over the Thanksgiving week. They get UConn at home. They're going to play Missouri and Kansas City. They go at NC State, Towson, and Davidson. So that's the non-conference schedule. Again, we kind of broke it down more in depth on our show last week. So if you want to check that out, you can. I was kind of discussing that. But looking ahead now to the conference schedule for Kansas in the Big 12, and Kansas obviously struggled a little bit in conference play last year for various reasons. And so you look at the conference schedule for this year, again, you don't have the order of the games you're going to be playing in. You don't have like when you're going to be playing who, where. You just have who you're going to be playing, who you're going to be playing twice, home and away, who you're going to be playing only on the road, who you're going to be playing only at home. So we'll start with the teams you'll play both, right? I think these make a lot of sense. Kansas State, obviously, makes sense. Iowa State, again, obviously makes sense. Those are the 2 schools geographically the closest to you. And then the other one is Arizona. And that's an interesting one. You get to go home and home against Arizona. Obviously, Arizona came down Fieldhouse. You didn't end up going out there last year to play Arizona, but now you'll get them both ways this year. So obviously, number one, glad that you get K-State again twice. Like that's a no-brainer, obviously. And I think Iowa State similarly. Obviously, there was a couple of years in there where Iowa State, you went to Hilton and they never came back, and that was very irritating. So I'm mainly just glad you get Iowa State home and home, and in case you do end up going to Ames and losing again, at least you have a chance to get them back at home.
Yeah, if you look at the last 15 years or so, I mean, the biggest rivalry in the Big 12 maybe is Kansas-Iowa State, right? And so that's one that I would love to see protected. I'd love to see K-State and Iowa State both protected, and then that third game can kind of shift around. I know some people were a little frustrated with Arizona getting that spot. You know, KU had Houston a year ago. Arizona is going to be very good. That wasn't necessarily the issue. The issue is, Nick, a lot of people wanted to see a home and away with BYU this year with Darren Peterson going against AJ Dubbensa.
Yeah. And obviously those two have already developed a little bit of a rivalry in high school. If you've been paying attention at the high school level, they've met a number of times at the high school ranks. And spoiler alert, Darren Peterson's kind of gotten the best of AJ by Dubbensa, truthfully, at the high school level.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That seemed like a bit of a miss, but like you said, Arizona is going to be very good. And I think from the Big 12 perspective, you want your top teams playing each other the most. Like that's going to get the most eyeballs. That's going to get the most people watching. So it makes sense that Kansas would get another top team that you're going to be playing home and away, right? Like you said with Houston. But BYU would have been a cool one, but not to be the case. Instead, it's Arizona that you get to the home and away for both. Now, this is where things get interesting, Kevin. You look at the teams that Kansas is going to be only playing at Allen Fieldhouse this year. And you run through that list. You've got Baylor, BYU, who we just talked about, Cincinnati, Houston, TCU, and Utah. That's a pretty damn good draw for KU in terms of
the projected like Big 12 contenders. And I get it's still early. People are still filling out rosters, whatever else. Texas Tech is the only one that KU kind of only has to go on the road to and doesn't get back at Allen Fieldhouse. And so, yeah, that's a very pleasant draw, especially over the last few years. We've seen Kansas obviously not have the most success going on the road. Even if Utah isn't necessarily going to be great, the fact that you don't make another trip out to Utah is not necessarily a rough deal. I think Arizona State, probably not going to be super great. UCF, is a road game. Oklahoma State is still really building that group, and West Virginia and Colorado are the other two on the road, along with Texas Tech. And so, yeah, if you're saying, hey, we want the best teams to come to Allen Fieldhouse and don't want to go on the road for as many tough games, you got it. Like this is the slate for you. The only thing that would have made it quote unquote perfect is if you would have traded out somebody for maybe Texas Tech. And so that's how close it was to an ideal draw, I think, for Kansas at this point.
Yeah, truthfully, that was my biggest takeaway looking at this. Just instant reaction was like, holy hell, this is a fantastic draw for Kansas, because you get K-State, Iowa State, and Arizona both home and away. Like, okay, Iowa State, K-State, you could have guessed Arizona's going to be good, but you get them home and away, right? Then you look at your teams that you're going to be playing only at home, which you kind of outline. Like, Baylor will probably be a pretty solid team. Get them only at home. BYU, we just talked about with AJ Demancia, they're probably going to be pretty strong, a pretty good team. You only have to play them at home. Houston, obviously, that goes without saying. You only get them at home, right? And then you look at the teams you play on the road. Arizona State, a team that's not very good. UCF, obviously, Kansas had trouble with them on the road, so I don't want to just poo-poo that one away. But even still, like, probably at best a mid-tier team.
Not last year though, right? Like KU actually like 50 piece UCF in Orlando a year ago.
I guess I'm looking at last year though, from like you played them at home and it was still a tight game, right?
Yeah.
So you lose on the road.
DeJuan didn't play in that one, right?
I think you're right. I don't believe he did. But that was Keyshawn Hall, obviously, going off.
Sure. And then played him in the Big 12 tournament, and that was a tight one too.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to just poo-poo UCF. Like, listen, we've probably already lost all of our UCF Golden Knights fans because they keep calling us Golden Knights. Oh, it's actually just the Knights now. Oh, okay. My bad, guys. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, so I don't want to poo-poo that one away. But then you get Colorado, again, same thing. A team that was in the NCAA tournament, but probably like a mid-tier team. You mentioned Oklahoma State, who, if I had to guess, probably is going to be one of the worst teams in the conference again, I would think.
I think they'll be better, but yeah, I think they'll still be at or around the bottom. I think it'll be somewhat similar to Houston in football, where it's like, hey, this is a job that you can see them improving and getting a little bit better, but the horses just aren't all there at this point.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Gallagher-Iba is such a historic, cool arena. Like, that's a place where you'd like to go with it to be a fun environment to play in, right? And it just hasn't been because Oklahoma State has been not good. And then you mentioned it, Texas Tech is basically the only one where it's like, damn, you got to go play them on the road. Don't get them back at home. Like, Lubbock is obviously always a difficult place to play in. Kansas has historically struggled there. In fact, some of their worst losses in Big 12 history have come in Lubbock against Texas Tech. So that's a bit of one where it's, like, okay. And then at West Virginia, another place where it's pretty tough to play. Kansas had a difficult time playing there when West Virginia first joined the Big 12, when they still had Bob Huggins. But they kind of got over that hump a little bit, and now you get them again. They did just lose there, I guess, in their most recent game there 2 years ago. And that was the game where Kansas forgot how to play defense, and they gave up 90 points. So that's one where it's okay. We'll see with that one. But again, you're talking about, I mean, if we were to do sort of a off-season, early summer tier list of Big 12 basketball, you would put Houston, BYU, and Baylor probably in the top 5, right?
Yeah, we should do that, by the way. Like, that should be a future.
It should be a future segment.
I mean, we should wait like a month until we're the
full
hospitals on this stuff. But yeah, we should 100% do that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you're looking at just sort of, we wrote this on chalk like right before the show or something, like up on the board. Like, yeah, that tier list of teams that are coming to KU, like, that's with the exception of Texas Tech. I mean, those are the good ones.
Yeah. And so, okay, you get basically the top teams coming to your place. That's very favorable for Kansas, considering what Allen Fieldhouse has been in terms of a home field environment for KU. So Yeah, all in all, I think this was about as I think I said it earlier in the show. This is about as good of a draw as you could ask for if you're Kansas, considering the circumstances. But again, just to kind of put a bookend on this whole thing, when you think about the schedule in totality, we talked about the non-conference schedule last week, but the non-conference schedule is very tough, right? I mean, there's a lot of really tough games on it, so Kansas will have to be ready pretty quick. There's not going to be a lot of time for them to sort of mess around and try to figure things out. It's going to be full go from the first game of the season. And
Exhibition game, right? Like going to Louisville for KFC. I get that it doesn't count, but if you're trying to build a roster, build continuity, build confidence, that's jumping into the deep end pretty fast.
Yeah, exactly. And the rest of the non-conference schedule is pretty tough. And then again, the conference schedule, I mean, obviously we just talked about it. We feel really good about the draw for Kansas, but the reality is Kansas was the seventh best team in the conference last year in conference play. So they will have to step up regardless of what the draw is. They'll have to perform.